What's the dumbest thing you've done out of horniness? When I was little I decided to put my schlong underneath the shower head so the water on it could be pleasurable. To get up that high I used a step stool, which poked a hole in the bathtub causing the floor beneath it to flood. My parents weren't too happy. Mom, son, what possessed you to put the step stool in the tub? You Mike Hellstrom, you're not gonna believe this, but bounce my tits on purpose. In class. In front of my crush. We've been dating for 6 years. Edit well, holy shit, I just blew up here. To address the fact that I have posts saying my relationship sucks. I've been trying to devise a way to say something. I'm taking medical leave from school right now. So hopefully that'll help. Thanks guys. Ever used hand sanitizer to jerk off? 14-year-old me did. Edit damn. An hour ago I got a notification saying this reached 25 upvotes. Now it's at 400 plus. Glad to see my misery makes you sick bastards happy. I bit my friend's neck. And just to clarify, I wasn't running up and biting her. She was hugging me close and sharing a towel. The horny drive suddenly kicked in because teenage hormones. And I bit her neck. She took it like a champ. But I'm pretty sure she saw me differently after that XD. Was having sex with an ex for about an hour after getting a sudden bout of second wind. She suddenly asked me to put it in her ass. And I was so overcome with shock and horniness that I came everywhere while farting my brains out. I never did get to put it in her ass. I jerked off on 9/11 because we got off school and my parents weren't home. I just didn't understand what a big deal it was at the time, but after my parents got home I realized I ducked up. Bought a girl a couch with it all banged on that couch. I was 13 and at parents' friend's house, bathroom, studying my erection. As one does, had it wrapped in toilet paper. I honestly don't remember why. Standing straight up, robed in white, got walked in on by a female member of that family. Yeah, looks at me, at it, at me, reacts and backs out. I swear there was mild amusement in her face. I remember poking my dick through toilet paper and wondering if that's what sex felt like, laughing my butt off. When I was little I decided to put my schlong underneath the shower head so the water on it could be pleasurable. To get up that high I used a step stool, which poked a hole in the bathtub causing the floor beneath it to flood. My parents weren't too happy. Edit the only photo I have of the tub is one that contains a lot of fake blood for a skateboard art project promo photo. You've been warned. Here's the fake bloody tub shower. Link. Mom, son, what possessed you to put the step stool in the tub? You Mike Hellstrom, you're not gonna believe this, but rode my bike 22 miles one way for a hand job, burning calories, oxygenation, seeing the environment. I failed to see the problem. Running 30 minutes to her house at around 1 AM. By the time I got there she was asleep and didn't respond. Long walk home with sore legs and blue balls. Sorry yours didn't turn out well. Operating on the logic that I needed the miles anyway, I ran 40 minutes to a guy's hotel room at 9 PM on a weeknight. Proceeded to have sex in the shower, on the bed, against a wall. Thankfully the guy drove me home after, so I didn't have to run back. 10 would do again in a heartbeat. Jerked off in the top bunk of the camper while everyone was sleeping. Definitely rocked the thing a little, and then I soiled a dishcloth that made a cameo during breakfast co-starring my grandpa who threw it straight in the trash. I was 13. Gramps knew what was up. When I was deployed to Kenya on an exercise I had sentry duty at like 3 AM. Naturally I decided that a wank would make the situation better. There were people about, but at a distance, so thought no one will know. After about 5 minutes I started hearing people laughing. What I failed to realize in the floodlight behind me was projecting my little escapade like some sort of ducked up shadow puppet show. Have 2 neodymium magnets stuck onto my dick which was then flaccid. I learned my lesson. Don't play with super strong magnets while horny. I got lucky and didn't lose any skin. I'm never putting magnets on a flaccid dick ever again. Jesus Christ in heaven, no. Edit, oh god, I thought you said in. I'm so relieved. At 13 I was camping with a buddy and his family, and there was a girl at a neighboring camp that was very flirty. We played truth or dare around the campfire, practically a metal drum. She dared me to touch the metal, and she'd flash me her nether region. I did it. She did it. Next day my whole palm was a blister. Not from the fire pit, though. My dad's leather office chair straddled the armrest and humped it till it broke. I was 16 and hormones and all. I donated blood in high school because a beautiful girl convinced me to. Not really that dumb, but I've never stopped getting emails asking to donate blood more. That's like donating your boner because you got a boner laughing my butt off. Friend of mine was at a bar and was chatting with 2 girls who he was going to hook up with. Threesome. But in his horny drunken state, he walked out the bar and made his way to his FWB. On the way, he really needed to shit. So he stopped off at a park with a lake and proceeded to do the deed. He then realized he didn't have toilet paper, so he grabbed some leaves which had thorns on them. He wiped and scratched his ass and balls bad, then fell into the water with his trousers down. From a potential threesome to being soaked, half covered in his own shit, and with a scratched ass and balls at 3 AM in a park with his pants down. Friend of mine. Stick my dick in a bottle full of shampoo thinking it would power up the experience. It felt like being stung at it. What the duck bottle of shampoo even has a hole large enough to get a dick in? This bottle just sounds duckin' weird, lol. Ducked a girl in the back room of a gas station. Then freezer. Then in the bathroom, and broke the sink. I got fired the next day. Funny part is, my dad was the manager of another gas station in the same chain. He knew. Once walked into my bathroom during a party to find my friend Fatboy ducking a girl who was sitting on my counter. They separated the sink from the wall and cabinet. Had to recork it after he cocked it. Not sure about dumbest, but there was this porn series in Hungarian that I was really into, and I could get the gist of the storylines from the events of the video, but I decided I want to know what they're actually saying. To that goal I downloaded the videos, separated the sound, and saved them as MP3s, then uploaded them to a website for automated translations with the language set to Hungarian English. Result was essentially Google Translate English, which I rephrased into what I imagined would be a more natural way to express the same things in English. Then I wrote a subfile for the porn videos so that I in the future could watch them and also understand the dialogue. That's a lot of effort driven by a little horny. Edit's likely worried about this soon becoming my most upvoted comment. I don't need this on my resume. In the days when VHS video cameras were not common, I borrowed one. Filmed myself jerking off. Then watched the video and jerked off again as I watched myself jerking off. Self-love to the maximum. My girlfriend at the time had messaged me at about midnight. We were both in a horny mood. At this point in time she still lived at home with strict Catholic parents, so we needed to come up with a plan. Her parents were asleep at this point. I'd drive an hour down to see her, sneak in through her window, spend the night, and then sneak and hide in her bedroom closet when her parents woke the next morning until they both left for work. Then I could just walk out the front door and go home. So I drive an hour down, park my car on the street behind Thiz just in case they'd recognize my car when leaving the next morning, and walk all the way to her fence, hop it and crawl in through the window. We don't immediately go for it, but read for a bit. We were both big book nerds, and then watch a movie. By the time the second movie comes around, we decide to start getting handsy, and then clothes are coming off. To the point I'm down to my boxers and she's just down to her panties and I'm on top of her. That's when I hear a scoff from the other side of the room. We both look over to find her mom standing in the door frame, completely shocked to find what she did. She said she got up for a glass of water and heard the TV going and wanted to check in, but as she got closer was hearing us. My girlfriend gets pulled out of the room and her mom talk in the hallway. Meanwhile I'm scrambling to find where the rest of my clothes have gone to, but can't seem to find any of it. She usually had a ton of clothes thrown all over the floor and chairs in her room. Mom comes back in and tells me she's gonna wake up the father. At this point I start thinking maybe I won't need to find my clothes since I'll be dead. Dad comes in and the look on his face cold melted paint off a wall. He talked to me about how I disrespected him, his daughter, God and myself, and I wound up getting lectured by her father like this for about 20 minutes while I'm just sitting there in my boxers. I find my clothes. He lets me out the front door and tells me he doesn't think he would handle seeing me again very well. And I walk back to my car and drive an hour back home at like 4 AM. Our relationship wasn't the same after that. She told me her parents were willing to give me a second chance, but I was too stubborn and embarrassed, and there were other things that weren't clicking in the relationship that I just decided to end it shortly after. Haha. Back when Wi-Fi was pretty new and there were many networks that had no password, you could connect to someone's random internet. I was a super horny teen. Maybe 18 because I was driving at that point. I really wanted to watch porn at that exact moment and knock one out. I drove slowly through a neighborhood until an unsecured network popped up on my laptop and I beat off super fast. Pretty ridiculous now that I think about it. I was 19 and really drunk, visiting a friend of a friend in Kamloops. Was about to hook up with a girl when she reminded me to use protection. I didn't have any. Ran about 200 yards to the corner store in my boxers to buy some, then ran back. Then got whiskey dick and passed out on the couch alone. Yeah. I was 16 years old and this girl named Chandra lived about 60 minutes away by car. She told me she would suck my dick on the phone, so logically I snuck out and hopped on my BMX bike and rode about 2 hours in the middle of the night with no lights. I had no Google Maps, just navigating by sense of boner and hormones. Got to her house and she had some magic mushrooms dried out. We ate them and had sex and walked to a nearby park. It was magical and fairy tale like. We had a wonderful time. I left ecstatic that I had sex and was tripping the whole ride home. I felt as if I was a pirate for some reason, lol. Got home at 5 AM and my dad started making coffee at 5:30. I didn't get any sleep and went to school like nothing happened. When I was 20, my parents and younger brother had gone away for the weekend, so I invited my girlfriend over to our house for a night of passion. I had this great idea of dragging a mattress onto the roof so we could make love under the stars. I dragged the mattress through a second floor window and up a sloping section of the roof. The roof was corrugated metal with bolts sticking out in the corrugations every meter or so. As I finally got the mattress on the top of the roof, I started slipping down the sloping roof in bare feet. I slipped about 6 or 7 meters and stopped at the gutter on the first floor. But I had also slipped over the bolts which had ripped open the soles of my feet and blood was pissing out of my feet all over the roof. My girlfriend, who was watching me, saw the blood and went and got a few towels and I wrapped up my feet. I then climbed off the roof and she drove me to the closest hospital to have my feet sewn up. Having anesthetic injections into the soles of my feet remains the most painful experience of my life. We went home with my feet sewn and wrapped up and still had sex. I told my mum what happened the next day as the mattress was still on the roof and the blood was still there. We never spoke of it again. I'm 48 now and haven't thought about that for a long time. Having anesthetic injections into the soles of my feet remains the most painful experience of my life. We went home with my feet sewn and wrapped up and still had sex. Priority my man. When I was a teenager, my dummy hot GF at the time had let me duck her and I couldn't get the experience out of my head at all. To try and stimulate and simulate, I found some water balloons and filled them with hot water and put them in a tissue box to emulate cleavage. It looked pretty decent and I got too riled up and dumb to think any of this through all the way. So I bring it in the bedroom and started it with no lube. Not that this would have helped. I hadn't thought ahead at all. So after about a second or two of building up static on my pubes with my baby arm, the balloons popped all over my ducking bed, like I was supposed to on those balloon titties. So I'm sitting there with a soggy tissue box and 2 busted balloons on my deflating half-erectic, drenched bed, idiotic feeling in my head, and no nut. I slept on the floor for like 2 days because my bed was just soaked. Luckily my parents didn't see. They certainly would have thought I wet the bed like a child. This is probably pretty low stakes on the grand scheme of things, but whenever this question pops up, This is the thing that immediately springs to mind. Was having sex with an ex for about an hour. After getting a sudden bout of second wind, she suddenly asked me to put it in her ass. And I was so overcome with shock and horniness that I came everywhere while farting my brains out. I never did get to put it in her ass. Ditch the rubber. Didn't have one handy, and I was so horny I just needed that dick. Few weeks later the person calls me and informs me they've tested positive for HIV and that they had it when we had sex, so I should get tested. I must have been insanely lucky cause I tested negative then and still tested negative last time I got tested, but that scare a few years ago taught me the importance of always having protection with you. I guess now is the time to tell my own coconut story. Surprisingly, this happened before all the coconut duckatifu's started coming up. So I was 16 and on vacation in Mexico with my mom, stepdad and younger sister. Like with most family vacations, we're all sharing a room and I'm bunking with my sister. Between this and all the activity, I hadn't been able to crank one out, and that, combined with seeing tons of hot women in bikinis, was enough to drive teenage me nuts. Anyways, one afternoon, I'm walking by the pool and I see someone selling coconuts for 50 pesos. So I asked my mom if I could get one, and she says yes. The way they cut it was enough to reveal a layer of flesh covering the top and a little bit on the bottom, so it could stand up on a table properly. I think this is why other people managed to cut their dick, because they drilled a hole into the side and got cut on the tough, sharp outer layer. As I'm drinking it, I look at how stretchy it is on the top, and I poked my finger through. Then it hit me. Oh my god. It kinda feels like a vagina. I should duck this thing. The skin is a little bit dense, but if scrape it, it will feel ducking great. So I'm drinking it quickly now, and my mom is trying to tear off bits of the top, and I'm swatting her hand away from it. Eventually, I finish drinking it, and so I run up to the room, go into the washroom, and start preparing it, and I'd go to town. Who'll I shit? It felt incredible. Like 10. What fuck again? So as I'm doing this, I hear a knock on the room door. First thought, where the duck do I put this coconut with a vagina shaped hole in the top? There wasn't anywhere to hide it that completely out of sight like a drawer or in a cabinet. But I saw a ledge under the sink, and I put it in there as far back as possible. All I can think as they prepare for dinner is please don't find it. Please don't find it. But all is well. They have forgotten about the coconut until that evening. We're all sitting watching a movie when my mom asks me my name. Where is that coconut? Shit man. Don't blow this. I threw it out. What was I supposed to say? In the washroom under the sink. But I ducked it. So don't eat it. What? Why? It was like $5. I wanted to eat that. I'm sorry. I felt bad at this point. But at least they didn't know. But then, the next morning I wake up to my stepdad saying, why is the coconut in the washroom? I thought he said threw it out. Why would he lie? Duck 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 duck. All I could muster was please don't eat it. Before I buried myself in the blanket. To this day I don't know if they knew I ducked the coconut, or if they thought I was just being incredibly selfish and wanted to eat it myself. Too long didn't read, I became the family coconut ducker. I didn't hurt my dick like most coconut duckers. I just hurt my pride. An old friend of mine cheated on his girl frequently. When they broke up, I hooked up with her. Turns out they didn't exactly break up. She tried to kill herself. He tried to kick my ass. I lost my friends and we all got an STD. Crazy really does make you crazy. Licked a girl out in a Dublin laneway behind some dumpster bins because she was super keen and I was horny. As it happens, afterwards I tripped and fell on a rat that was scurrying across the lane. Had shit and blood smeared up my arm. It was a crazy night. Somehow ended up staying at her brother's house that night. I miss backpacker life.